안녕하세요. 예스유학의 김동민 이사입니다.
예스유학의 윌리엄 선생님입니다.
네, 오늘은 저희가 도대체 초트나 태프트나 세인막스 같은 명문학교 붙은 애들은 어떤 또 스펙을 갖고 있길래 이런 질문들을 되게 많이 하시거든요.
Exactly, and I think, especially recently, everybody on paper looks pretty good. High GPA, high SSAT, diverse activities. However, now admissions officers at these top tier schools aren't just looking at the what they're doing, but they're looking at the how and the who is doing it.
어떻게 보면 소위 말하는 명문 보딩 합격하는 학생들 아이들에는 곧 이제 공통적인 성공 요소가 있는 것 같아요. 오늘은 이 세 학교 합격 사례를 조금 기반으로 저희가 입학사정관의 또 마음을 움직이는 핵심 4가지를 포인트로 좀 집어서 같이 토론해보고 쉐어할 수 있는 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. 그래서 첫 번째는 학업 태도입니다. 단순히 이제 성적을만 좋다는 뜻은 아니겠죠, 윌리엄님?
No, I don't think that's what it is. Schools already know that students are, I guess, book smart from the transcript. But what they're really looking to see is the intellectual curiosity, as you just mentioned. They look for students who enjoy the struggle of learning, right? The students who enjoy making the mistakes and learning from them, right? These are schools that have a very tight-knit academic community. And they want students who will actively contribute to class discussions.
그래서 일단 기본적으로 이제 하클래스 에듀케이션, 대부분 보딩스쿨이 이런 하클래스 테이블 토론식 위주로 수업을 진행하다 보니까 자기의 생각을 정리를 잘해서 클래스메이트들과 이런 부분들을 같이 쉐어하고 내가 못 봤던 포인트를 좀 봐서 나한테 다른 걸 알려주고 내가 또 다른 애들이 못 봤던 점을 좀 보여줄 수 있고 약간 이러한 부분들을 학교에서 많이 보는 것 같아요, 제 생각에.
And it's kind of interesting is that they don't only see this in the recommendations. They don't only see this in the transcript. When students go for their interview, right, instead of finding the right answer, being able to discuss their life with the teachers and dig deep in those conversations is a big indicator of that intellectual curiosity as well.
이 하크네스의 교육이 기본적인 정책이 뭐냐면 내가 진짜 그걸 좋아하는지 안 좋아하는지 끊임없이 질문해보고 끊임없이 확인해보고 그걸 클래스메이트들과 얘기를 해보는 형태인데 이제 그러한 이 intellectual curiosity, 즉 미국의 교육은 서로 토론하면서 근데 진짜 자기가 좋아하면 밤낮 새서 찾아보게 되어 있거든요. 그래서 그러한 부분들의 그 attitude가 조금 달랐던 것 같아요, 일반적인 학생들과.
Exactly. I mean, as someone who has been through the Harkness education, I think what it's done is it's made it so that I can feel comfortable in any sort of situation. At work as well, right?
Yes.
In our meeting rooms.
Yes.
Being able to speak my mind and not be afraid of criticism as well and sort of discuss things.
네.
No.
그래서 이제 두 번째는 활동의 깊이라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 즉 우리가 얘기하는 훅이라고도 많이 얘기하시죠. 그래서 아무래도 활동의 개수가 많이 중요한 게 아닙니다.
It's funny because in English we have a saying called quantity over quality. And this is sometimes when you're eating a bag of chips, right? You want not the perfect chip, but rather lots and lots of pretty average chips. However, in terms of these application activities, we often see students with 10 different clubs, right, but no real impact inside of those clubs. Whereas for successful applicants at Taft or St. Mark's or Choate, this year usually had 1 or 2 things they were truly engaged and sort of obsessed with.
네, 일단은 한 가지를 하더라도 얼마나 진정성 있게 파고들느냐가 가장 중요한 것 같긴 한데요. 예를 들어서 뭐 요리를 좋아하는 학생인데 요리를 좋아하는 부분들을 아카데믹하게 증명을 하는지 또 그걸 얼만큼 좋아하는지를 보이는 게 가장 중요한 것 같아요. 여기저기 유튜브나 리서치를 다 해봐서 본인 스스로가 집에서도 해보고 레시피 개발도 해보고 또 컴피티션의 대회도 나가보고 근데 결국에 이 모든 활동이 한 가지의 훅으로 구축이 되는 거를 설명을 드리는 거거든요. 여러 활동을 했지만 모든 활동이 이 하나의 훅으로 연결고리가 돼 있는 게 가장 중요한 게 이게 진짜 학생의 활동을 깊게 보이게끔 만드는 것 같아요.
And I think the big reason why this is so important is because these schools spend so much money into their facilities and their programs, right? This is the Kohler Environmental Center at the Choate Rosemary Hall School, where I believe it's a $22 million facility where students are able to live and study and work with scientists on their research on sort of in this amazing facility, right? And so this is for students who have that hook of environmental science.
그리고 이제 세 번째, 자기 표현 능력입니다. 참 입학사정관들이 제일 많이 얘기하는 게 자기의 진짜 보이스는 뭘까? 진짜 솔직해야 된다고 생각합니다. 솔직하게 있었던 얘기를 얘기하고 좀 꾸미더라도 솔직하게 본인의 인사이트나 생각을 얘기를 잘 해야 되는데 이 생각의 정리나 표현 방법을 좀 몰라서 안타까웠던 학생들도 되게 많고.
Well, I would think that sort of being the Harkness education is a good place to start to talk about these things, right? Being able to have your voice, being able to have your unique way of thinking, to be able to help push sort of that academic culture within the school is going to be so important as well. And additionally, I think for smaller schools like St. Mark's, the fact that there aren't as many students is that your voice stands out a little bit larger. That's also being said, if you're at a place like Choate and Taft and you really want to stand out, your voice has to be very, very loud as well, right? And so this idea about building your own unique story behind the application, going into the interview and being able to, like you said, speak honestly about your sort of life story and what you've learned is going to give you the most authentic path to being able to get into these schools.
네. 그 단순한 질문 하나를 그걸 어떻게 accept해서 받아들인지에 따라의 학생 캐릭터가 보이는 거고, 대답을 하는 걸 보면 이 학생이 생각하는 사고나 구조가 좀 이제 저한테 느껴진다고 할까요? 그런 부분들을 자기가 좀 더 표현을 잘하면, 이 자기 표현 능력이 좋다 보면 아무래도 훨씬 더 중요하게 느껴지는 것 같아요, 이런 경우는.
Right, and so at our webinar event with St. Mark's, they talked about this idea of being intentionally small and incredibly diverse. Now, I want to kind of look at this incredibly diverse part, right? They're looking for students from all walks of life, from all over the world, to be able to have these unique voices, these unique characters, to be able to build out all of the students into being able to think critically from all different types of perspectives as well, right? And these are the skills that you can only get if you have students who know who they are and who are authentic to who they are. And so I recommend that all students really reflect and think deeply throughout the admissions process to figure that out before applying to these top schools.
그리고 이제 마지막으로 추천서와 인터뷰의 연결이죠. 진짜 이 추천서 부분은 너무 중요한 부분이라서, 근데 이 추천서가 진짜 데일리 라이프의 학생에 대한 평가로 보시면 될 것 같아요. 가장 중요한 거는 추천서의 일관성하고 인터뷰가 좀 잘 맞아야 된다.
I would say that, inside of the interview, like the student could seem like the best student in the world. On paper, it could seem like the best student in the world, but you get the teachers and they say, well, you better watch out for this one. He's going to be a pain, right? And that's not what schools are looking for. They're looking for students where the teachers say, well, it was just lovely having this person in class. They may not have the best grade in the world, but they're trying their hardest and they're, doing all these, going the extra mile, saying thank you, being polite, and making the atmosphere, the 분위기, better inside of the classroom. And so, these are the types of things that students and families don't think about because we can't see what goes on in the class, right? We can't see what goes on in the 추천서. And so all we have to do is continue to encourage and hope that the teachers are going to be running them.
기존 학교의 선생님이 아이를 바라보는 시점을 제일 좋아하거든요. 적어도 입학사정관 입장에서는 학생의 잠재력을 기존의 선생님이 가르친 선생님한테 더블 체크 받고 싶어 하는 걸 좋아해서 추천서와 인터뷰는 되게 일관성이 있어서 네 번째로 저희가 둔 팩트라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다.
And I think in sort of one sentence, the best way to put it is you just don't want to build a resume, but rather you want to build a character, a story in your student. And that's what these top schools are looking for.
이게 아이의 성향을 하루아침에 바꿀 수는 없지만, 근데 우리 학생들은 아직까지도 어리고 무한 가능성이 있기 때문에 혹시 우리 아이의 훅과 캐릭터를 어떻게 전략적으로 생각해 보실지 고민이시라면 저희 예스유학을 찾아주시면 함께 고민하고 좀 정리해드리겠다는 의미로 보시면 될 것 같고요. 오늘 그 탑보딩 캐릭터를 어떻게 보는지에 대한 부분을 소개하는 시간을 가졌는데요. 또 다음 편에는 좀 더 학부모님들이 관심이 있을 만한 보딩 요소를 좀 다시 찾아서 다시 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 지금까지 예스유학 김동민 이사였고요.
지금까지 예스유학 윌리엄 선생님이고요.
네, 다음 편에 또 찾아뵙도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. Okay, so you thought we were done. We are not. We're going to be taking a look at the three schools that we talked about in this video, St. Mark's, Choate, and the Taft School. So the first school that we're going to be looking at is my some photos and videos of my visit to St. Mark's. But here we are at the main gate of St. Mark's School, this beautiful main gate of St. Mark's School. Okay, so the tour started off looking at the senior, it's sort of like the senior courtyard. And so I believe that only the seniors in the school are able to actually walk across this courtyard at the very front of the school. Here's this beautiful hallway as well. I would have to say that St. Mark's is probably one of the more picturesque boarding school campuses that I did get to see during my trip. So I hope you also enjoyed it as well. So this is going to be the first view that you come in. This is the admissions office, and we'll go and take a look at a couple more images of the admissions office. Kind of has this old, it kind of feels like it would be my grandmother's house in a way. This kind of very homey feel to it, very historical feel to it. And this is another part of the admissions office here. And here we are, more of the admissions office. So we started on a tour with Miss Binky, and then here we are looking at the senior courtyard again, walking through the nice beautiful hallways, and here's a look at this awesome chapel. So this is where they have their community gatherings with the student body. Now here we are in one of the hallways. So here's the honor pledge is actually quite important in terms of the St. Mark's traditions and cultures. In fact, it's posted across the wall here, right, making sure that everybody is doing their work and doing it trustworthily. So here we are inside one of the sort of study areas. Another nice hallway with a bunch of classrooms. So here you see here, this is one of their math, I believe this is part of the math and science wing. And so you'll see that they have glass for all of their windows, and students are actually able to write with marker on here. So wherever they are, and also on their desks as well, you see these are whiteboard desks. And so basically wherever they are within the classroom, if they have an idea, they can write it straight down. So one of the things about St. Mark's, one of the specialty programs is the STEM research program that they have. And so this student here, they did a research project on the Ganges River pollution, or the Ganges River pollution. And so supposedly this student actually went to the Ganges River and did her testing there as well. And so the St. Mark's is providing the future STEM professionals of the world a platform to be able to do their research and do it sort of passionately, which I think is quite amazing. Here's a picture of their library. You have nice little study cubbies here as well. Okay, so here we're on the outside, and we are now walking towards the Art Center. Now, St. Mark's has an awesome arts program. So here you can see this is their sort of orchestra hall, right? You can see a class going on right now. So this is a boxed-in theater, and so basically, it's got I think 4 levels or 3 levels, and it's so students are able to sit and audience are able to watch at all different sort of angles, right? And it's blacked in as well, so when you close the doors, it's completely pitch black. Okay, now we're walking over to the athletics buildings. Here we are, you can see the wall of the Athletics Hall of Fame, walking into the squash courts right now. So there, they've got this ice rink here for their ice hockey players. They've got an outdoor pool right here. So here's more of the Hall of Fame for their students. Here's their weight room. Okay, here's their basketball court. They've got a nice history in athletic history in terms of their competitiveness. So here is the one of the student rooms, more of the dining hall. Okay, now we're walking over to freshman dorm. they've got balconies for in their dorm rooms, which is quite incredible. So here, this is an outward view. They've got this patio up on the second floor. So as we walk in, you'll see it kind of looks like a hotel in a way. Look, here's the common space for all the students to be. So they come out here during the night and play games, have nice gatherings and so on. This right here is a door to the kitchen. So they have an open kitchen that students will cook and bring out food to their friends. And this is a projector, I believe, a giant projector that comes down the wall. So if the students are able to sit here and watch movies as well. Now we're going to take a look at the Taft School. Okay.
안녕하세요. 저는 예스유학의 윌리엄 선생님입니다. 여기는 the Taft School입니다.
So I really like the Taft School. Here's the drive up to the school, as well as going into the gate. It's very classic. It feels very classic. And walking to the admissions office right now. Here is the front of the school. And here is the founder of the school right here. We have these nice videos here. Here's inside of the admissions office. Now I think Taft gave off the most Hogwarts vibe out of all the schools that I visited. Here, this is a history classroom, I believe. And this sort of busk of Abraham Lincoln is a lucky busk. So just like at a lot of these different boarding schools, students will come over and rub the nose of Abraham Lincoln for good luck. As well as this arch right here, there's a little bit of a superstition, is that if you walk through this arch, right, instead of walking around it, you're actually never going to graduate. Here is an English classroom. So you can see the Harkness table here, the notes on the desk. They have a screen as well. Here's a gallery of theirs. And here is a cool theater area. Okay. Now we're entering in sort of the student center area. So you can see here they have the billiards table, they've got a nice place to lounge, ping pong table. So this area has become one of the most popular areas, I was told, where students will come out and sit during the nice weather. They have the pond here. It's really just quite picturesque, this campus. So here are every single student who's graduated from each class. They have their name engraved on one of the bricks. And so basically what the idea, the tradition is that all students, no matter where you are sort of standing on top of the legacy and walking with the people that came before you. And it's quite a sign of pride for students to be able to have their name on that walkway. Okay, we're walking into a building here. Nice stairwell. Okay, here's the classroom. They like to have these sort of desks, and the idea is that students are able to move around the room and be in groups and be sort of just kind of rearranged, because the classes, they have to figure out, this configuration is probably better this time, maybe we should do group project this time, and being able to have that flexibility helps them with their classes. And here is a science building, or a science classroom as well. Here's some science research that students have performed. The Science and Math Center. There's the library. This area of the library is common for students to come in and do group work together. I really enjoyed the tall ceilings here. Very nice windows. So Taft is also really well known for their athletics. And so this field, I believe this was the freshman field or something like that. We're walking up to the ice rink right now. And you can see how big the campus is. These were, I think, relatively newly paved tennis courts recently. So we're walking into where the basketball and the ice rink is. So here's another lucky statue, the statue of the rhino here. You can see, if we look just a little bit closer here, you can see that the horn itself is gold. The reason why students come in, they touch it for good luck before the games. Here's the squash courts, the weight room. This is their athletics sort of common space here. You can see all the trophies. This is a huge logo on their ceiling. You can see how sort of indulged into the athletics the Taft community is. and how engaged they are. But here we are at the basketball courts here. These are all students who went on to either become collegiate or professional athletes. You can see just this giant wall of students. Oh, here's the ice rink. This is really cool. Oh, it's massive. Okay, just more fields just all over the place. I think we can take a look. Here's the dining area, right? You have these nice booths here. So here we are. This is your normal sort of stereotypical Taft boys dorm room. So here we are at the Choate School, Choate Rosemary Hall. So I was unable to enter into a lot of the buildings here due to the timing of the tour. Here we are, driving up to Choate Rosemary Hall. This is one of the views out that I thought was quite nice while driving. And here we are. So Choate is what's called an open campus, and basically they don't have gates around their campus. The general public is able to walk in and out. You're able to be on the lawn with the students. It's likely that the residential people here go to the church on Sundays on Choate's campus. So you can see here, this is kind of the neighborhood that Choate is in. Right, so here's part of the campus here. You can see the buildings are starting to look more sort of New England schoolish. So here I am walking to the newly built, I believe, admissions center. Here's a look inside of the admissions center. This was a Choate-themed Scrabble board. So here is Jeffrey Beaton, who's the Dean of Enrollment, maybe, at the school. But he gave a presentation. I was actually the first tour of the year, so I was excited to be there for that. So here we are. This is the dining area. So here is the very nice painting of inside of the dining area, as well as a moose head inside of the dining area. Okay, so here's, I believe it's part of the student center. Yes, you can see they have ping pong, pool, places to sit, to be, to lounge, to watch movies, to have events. We're walking into the athletic center here. Here's the Athletics Hall of Fame. They have this huge volleyball kind of area. They can pull down basketball hoops to play inside of here. You can see the scale of it. So here's where, at the point where I was unable to get into a lot of the buildings. So you can take a look. I'm sure on their website and their YouTubes, they have lots of different virtual tours where you're allowed to go and see inside of the room. So I recommend you check those out. But if you'd like to stay with me and look at these photos, I would love that. So here we are at some of the awesome buildings here. The science building. Here's inside of the arts building. We got to see the back room for the theater. So this is where they do all the lighting, the technology, electronic things. So here's this very famous bridge that they use for a lot of photos. I was able to walk on it. Walking into the Lamphere Center. This is their computer science, I believe, mathematics. Right, so the mathematics and computer science. Here we are outside. Ah, yes, here I am.
안녕하세요. 저는 예스유학의 윌리엄 선생님입니다. 여기는 Choate Rosemary Hall입니다.
Perfect. Here's another nice video of me walking. Here's a nice outside video of the building. And that concludes the Choate Rosemary Hall tour and video. So thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. This has been William 선생님.